The train screeched to a halt in a dark tunnel. Luca didn't wait for the doors. He used a fire extinguisher to smash the glass. He tumbled onto the tracks, the smell of burnt rubber filling his lungs. He had to reach the surface before the Praetorians closed the perimeter. He climbed a maintenance ladder, emerging through a manhole into the center of Piazza Navona. The fountains roared, masking the sound of his breathing. The square was eerily empty, the statues of Bernini casting long, distorted shadows across the wet cobblestones. "Luca," a voice cried out. He saw Sofia tied to a marble bench near the fountain of the Four Rivers. He ran toward her, but stopped when red laser sights converged on his chest. From the darkness of the porticos, 6 men in charcoal suits stepped into the light. The man from the bunker, the one Valerius called the lead, walked forward. The coin, Luca, and the drive. He held a detonator in his hand, pointed at the explosives strapped under Sofia's bench. "The narrative is already written. You are the villain tonight." Luca looked at Sofia. Her eyes were fixed on the fountain's base. She kicked a loose stone twice. A signal. Beneath the fountain lay the ancient stadium of Domitian. "You want the truth?" Luca shouted, holding the drive high. "The truth is, Rome never stopped burning." He didn't hand it over. Instead, he tossed the silver denarius into the churning water of the fountain. As the lead's eyes followed the glint of metal, Luca dived for the loose stone Sofia had marked. He pulled it, triggering an ancient floodgate mechanism. A roar of water erupted from the pipes, flooding the piazza in seconds. The sudden surge knocked the mercenaries off balance. Luca sliced Sofia's bonds with a shard of glass he'd kept. "The stadium tunnels," she gasped. "The pressure will open the lower vents." They plunged into the rising water, disappearing into the drainage vortex of the fountain. The lead fired blindly, but the water was a thick shield. Below the square, the siblings were swept through a series of brick-lined conduits, moving faster than any bullet. They emerged blocks away, near the bank of the Tiber. Luca checked the drive in his waterproof casing. It was still there. But more importantly, the silver coin had triggered a local sensor in the fountain, a backup broadcast node the Brotherhood had forgotten. The real files were finally hitting the dark web, bypassing the Brotherhood's filters. The fabricated news stories began to flicker and die on the giant screens across Europe. The names of the modern Caesars were finally being whispered by millions of citizens. "They'll be hunting us forever," Sofia said, coughing up river water. She looked at the city skyline, where police helicopters were finally diverted by the truth. Luca looked at his hands, scarred and cold. "Let them come. We have the map to every one of their vaults." In the distance, the bells of St. Peter's began to toll. It wasn't a funeral march, it was an alarm. The Brotherhood's veil had been torn, and for the first time in centuries, the light was hitting the deepest corners of the Roman underworld. The elite were exposed. Luca stood up, offering his hand to his sister. They were no longer ghosts or thieves. They were the architects of a new republic. "Where to next?" Sofia asked, a defiant smile returning to her face. Luca looked toward the Swiss border. "Zurich. They have a bank too." The moon hung over Rome, indifferent to the shifting power below. The water in Piazza Navona settled, the statues standing watch over an empty square. The coin was gone, the secret was out, and the game had changed. The era of the Caesars was finally over.